Yeah.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Sarah Baker here with Balanced Babe and the Be Healthful Retreat. And we are starting round 2 of our webinars. And today I have the awesome and fearless Allie Lefevere. Allie is the founder of Shameless Inc., coaching women and creating wildly fun and inspiring programs that make learning to love yourself way less overwhelming than online dating and way more fun than stuffing yourself into a pair of Spanx. And I know I can vouch for that one. So Allie, let's get started. And what I want to know right off the bat, you talk about living shamelessly. And I feel like a lot of women strive to either be fearless and reach their goals or to just live life shamelessly. So what does that exactly mean to strive or to actually live your life shamelessly?
Yeah, well, it's funny because I think that, first of all, I always joke that, if you Google shameless and you end up on my site, you've actually had to bypass a few porn sites first. So,
oh, Lord have mercy.
Congratulations. But I really think of this idea of living shamelessly is and you might use the word like unapologetically or fearlessly, and they can all be like these very like cool words that sound great. But I think this idea is that not feeling kind of bad about who we are or the experiences we've gone through or our body or the way we think about things or the choices we make. It's like this idea of allowing our voice to be the loudest, and that we are listening and are aligned with what feels good with us, as opposed to kind of living according to, what's going to make other people happy or everyone else's rules. And so I think of shamelessly as that kind of like owning who you are. And I think so often we're like these incredible, amazing women in so many different ways, but there's always this part of ourselves that we feel like we have to like apologize for or hide, or we don't feel so good about. And it's often because it's this part of ourselves that we're trying to, compare and contrast with everyone else's life. And so, yeah, shamelessly to me is that it's like, just you do you, girl, you be you, and really stay in alignment with what feels good with who you are and the experience that you have and have gone through, and they make you who you are today.
So really just owning it, not having any regrets, looking forward, not dwelling on the past, and just giving yourself permission to live the life you want to live.
Yeah, and I love you said don't dwell on the past, because everything we've gone through in our lives, whether it's good, bad, ugly, it's all led us to where we are, and there's no need to apologize for the choices we've made or the hardships we faced. It's all taken us to this exact place in our journey, and I think that we get so hung up on it, and if we can just kind of honor and accept it and actually embrace it and go like, wow, this was a gift, or these were gifts that have led me here, and not feel again shame for what's taken us through the course of our life. So yeah,
I love it, especially with the weekend starting. I'm ready to live shamelessly.
Yeah.
That could be a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, right.
I'm here in Chicago.
There's a line to teeter on, which is shameless.
I'm gonna embrace this warm weather and the weekend, and people better watch out.
Watch out. There comes shameless walking down the street.
And speaking of weekends, here's another question that I found that you actually wrote about on your website, and I think everybody that will be attending the conference will also want to know this, especially with the weekend coming up. Yeah. But how can you be your own shot of whiskey?
Oh yeah, so I wrote on my website, be your own shot of whiskey instead of everyone's cup of tea. And I just meant, so profound, isn't it?
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. Like I could like kind of see where, you think of taking a shot of whiskey and you've just totally relaxed, or you kind of let your wall down. And I was thinking to myself, like, wow, like I really wonder how we can be that staple or that crutch for ourselves instead of looking to a different outlet that may give you a hangover the next day.
Yeah. Well, I kind of think of it as that being everyone's cup of tea, right? It's like being vanilla, like being something that everyone likes, that everyone's okay with, that everyone, doesn't mind a cup of tea every once in a while. But I kind of think like whiskey is something that you either love or you hate. It's it's potent, it's powerful. It can be a healer. It can kind of relax you, knock you on your feet. It can be a good time, whatever that is. But I think of it's like it's distinct. and it's not for everyone. And I think if we can live closer to that of like, I'm going to be who I am, and I'm okay kind of risking that maybe not everyone is going to approve of what I do or love what I do or like what I do or like my choices or my hair or my outfit or my partner or whatever that is. That's really powerful. And there's something that I think we all crave that at some level, but I think we have fear around like not being accepted or not being valued for who we are. But, you know, I think that we will live much more authentic and happy and aligned lives if we are kind of being our own shot of whiskey than being what we think everyone else is going to want us to be. There's a lot of discontent in that. I know when I'm trying to fit in or, you know, play it safe or play by the rules, like I know something feels off. I can feel it because I'm not being who I am. And then who I am isn't showing up in the most powerful, authentic, kind, compassionate, whatever way, because I don't feel kind of good of how I'm kind of good in how I'm kind of playing the game because it doesn't feel real. So that's what I mean.
So not being afraid to be who you are, and most importantly, not caring about what other people think, just you doing you.
Yeah, well, I think there's a line, right? I think you want to be kind and loving and thoughtful and compassionate, but I also don't think you want to jeopardize yourself in order to just please everyone. So I think you still want to be a good person, but you want to have, you know, really strong and healthy boundaries of what feels like a good person to you, and then what feels like the version of you that's just trying to appease everyone else.
Exactly. And with that, it kind of ties into always worrying about how people view you, and if you're trying to be perfect and you're trying to make everybody happy, it can bring on a lot of anxiety and stress and also negative thoughts. And to expand on that, you know, us as women, we probably have negative thoughts daily that we struggle with. It's either with body image, who we're trying to conform to be, standards that are set. So what is your advice for dealing with these negative thoughts that we come across?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I think that, you know, there's so many, you know, we think about, you know, I think we don't even realize that when we hear negative thoughts, we think that they're like these very like strong, mean, cruel statements. But a lot of times it's just kind of our daily dialogue and kind of the little things that we're saying. Like we look in the mirror and we kind of go, or we look at someone else and we kind of compare and contrast, or or we, you know, we doubt our capabilities when we go to take on a task or activity or a job interview or date or whatever that is. You know, I really think the first kind of step, which, you know, might be cliche, is kind of tuning in and even bringing awareness to it. I think that the record player spins so fast that we don't even recognize like how frequently and how often these negative thoughts are really creeping up. So I think the first is that, and I think to combat it, it really is developing some sort of mindfulness practice, right? It's some sort of practice that keeps us with ourselves every single day. It allows us to sit with whatever thoughts and emotions and feelings come up, because then we can actually recognize like, wow, like I'm starting to notice when I clear a little bit of space in my life, I'm starting to actually notice like what I'm saying to myself and how often I'm saying it and how frequently I'm kind of taking a negative spin on a situation or kind of focusing on the wrong things. So I think that that's kind of the first step, is even bringing just really awareness to it. I think it's also, you know, once we start to do that is, you know, I've actually done this in my own life, and I always recommend, you know, clients and even friends to do it, is really understanding like what we believe, like what are our core beliefs that we believe about ourselves. And so asking ourselves questions to really identify, you know, what do we believe about our body or ourselves or the world or about people? A lot of times, you know, and I give this example because it's easy and relatable, but if you operate under the belief that all men are assholes, sorry, am I allowed to swear? All men are a-holes. Sorry.
No worries.
Swear, cat's out of the bag. If we operate under that, then we're always going to find that, right? We're always going to find that the men we date are a-holes, or that the friendships we have, people are jerks. And so if we start to recognize, like, what do I actually believe at the core, and how is that belief perpetuating itself and showing up in my life, then you can start to say, okay, well, I want to have a new belief around it, right? So if we start to recognize, when we're bringing awareness and we start to identify our beliefs, that every time we look at ourselves, we say, I should be thinner, or I should be taller, or I should have less wrinkles, then we're going to keep perpetuating those wrinkles and those negative thoughts or whatever that is. And we're going to keep drawing that experience into our life. We're going to keep seeing that more clearly in our life. We're going to keep feeling that more strongly. We're going to keep perpetuating that same negative pattern. So I think, again, awareness, kind of identifying it. And then I'd say to kind of start the shift in the pattern is to maybe start to write down, like, what would I like to believe instead? It's not about just mantras of going, I am sexy, I am strong. You know, like, well, that feels like, it feels fluffy and it doesn't feel real. But if we start to talk about and speak to ourselves in a way that feels a little bit more powerful, like, you know, I'd like to believe that I am a loving and kind and wonderful person that attracts positive and respectful people into my life. I'm becoming someone who is more available and more able to have positive, engaging conversations. And I'm allowing myself to be open to those beautiful and engaging conversations and relationships. Then, like, you're starting to tell yourself, like, I can think a little bit differently about a situation. I can believe things a little bit differently. I can approach a situation a little bit more powerfully. So the words I always like to use when we want to change our thought or change our language, I know I'm blowing through this really fast, so apologies. But I love, like, the words I am becoming, I am believing, and I am allowing. So those are three powerful statements that we can start to use to replace kind of negative thinking and negative thought.
I love it.
There we go.
And I think that's a little bit more approachable than just saying, I am beautiful or I am strong, because if you don't truly feel that at the moment, then when you're saying it to yourself, it may not feel authentic. But if you're using these like transition words, like I am becoming, or I am allowing myself to do this, then it's, you really start to believe it and embrace it and let that process or change happen.
Yeah, because imagine saying to yourself, like, I'm allowing myself to feel more beautiful. I'm allowing myself to accept compliments. I'm allowing myself to look in the mirror and be happy with my reflection, right? Like, that's so much easier to, again, as you're transitioning into this old belief and new belief, or old thinking pattern, new thinking pattern, it's so much easier to believe that and to actually see that as like, oh, I can really hang my hat on that. Like, that's something that I could actually stay in alignment with. It's like, maybe I don't feel it fully, but I could become it, or I could believe it, or I could allow it into my life. So yeah, that's a little tip maybe that could be helpful for someone.
Oh, definitely. I think a lot of us viewing will be able to use these, right away if we're feeling negative about anything today. If it's life, work, I'm allowing myself to let go of the stress, or I'm allowing myself to power through this challenge. So you can utilize that with all arenas of your life, I think. So I think that's awesome. And the last question today to kind of round out this webinar, I know that you're a women's coach and you've been doing this for quite some time. And as with any business or any venture, you've had to grow to become what you are and what your brand is today. Mm-hmm. So if you could go back into time when you first started this journey, what piece of advice would you tell yourself, or what would you just tell yourself when you were first starting out?
Right now today, if I was looking back, I would tell myself, you don't have to do it all. That you don't have to learn everything, know how to do it all. I think that I often find that, I can speak to myself, is I always equated not doing everything on my own or asking for help as weakness. Is that somehow if I didn't know how to create my own copy, design my own branding, do payroll, do all newsletters and social media, that somehow that I was less than, or I was a weak entrepreneur, or somehow I didn't have what it took to be successful, or whatever that story I was telling myself. But I recognize that really stemmed from a belief that somehow that equals weakness, that asking for support is needy, or it means that I'm incapable, and that felt weak to me. And so if I could go back, and now I'm getting way better at asking for support and leading into incredible friendships, incredible other entrepreneurs that I'm befriended, or I've partnered with, and really leaning into their expertise, or even their listening ear, or their guidance, or their advice, and and recognizing that I don't have to pretend I have it all together and I have it all figured out, is that I think part of the beauty and what people resonate with is like when you're actually vulnerable enough to say, like, I don't know what I'm doing entirely, but I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to be open to guidance and new direction. And so that's what I would go back and tell myself. And you know, I will say that I did learn a lot. I know like every little bit and piece of my business because I taught myself Photoshop and a little bit of web coding and social media and kind of all that stuff. So it's good to know it, but also not putting that pressure on myself that I have to do it all, or else somehow I'm not a successful entrepreneur.
I love it. That's awesome news. And speaking of branding and creating your message and sharing your story, we will be hearing from you on September 27th at the BeHealthful Retreat. You will be one of our panelists, and we are so excited to learn more from you. All of our attendees are going to be so excited to send in their questions. So ladies, if you're watching, don't forget to send in your questions for Allie so that we can answer everything you've been wanting to know about branding and sharing your story and spreading your word. And you will all be able to meet her in September at the retreat. And you can register at behealthfulretreat.com. Allie, thank you so much for all this wealth of information you shared. You are awesome. You are a rock star. And I'm so thankful to have you as a friend.
Aw, thank you for having me. I love and adore you, and I'm super stoked to be there. So I can't wait to meet everyone that's going to be there. It's going to be great. It'll be fun.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, bye, guys. See you next week.